The thing about CBO is it always hates a tax cut. A tax cut is always detrimental.
Because it doesn't bring in revenue.
A new tax is always a good thing. Now, does that match your view on taxation?
Absolutely not.
Right. So before we get into the new taxes or whatever, they go, all right, well, basically $4 trillion in added deficits from tax cuts. And I go, I don't believe that to be true. You know? Yeah, I get it. I mean, we need to cut our spending like crazy. We need to cut our spending like crazy. But saying it's going to add $4 trillion to the deficit through tax cuts is different than let's spend money to make money. Tax cuts are not spending money. Congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be. I am Frank, and as always with me is...
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
The Bean Master Flex. He's here to provide fiber, low in fat. Bet you didn't know that. Do you remember Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear the album they put out? There's an album. Braxton sings a song about his love of beans. It's pretty good. It's worth it. Look it up on the YouTubes. It's there.
All right.
I love beans. That's what it's called. Okay, so breaking news is that Elon and Trump are going at it on internet and like actively right now in this moment. We will get to that later to catch up with everything. Quick one is Elon says Trump's on Epstein's list. That's why the files aren't out. We'll go into more detail on all this later. But and somebody tweeted at him that Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should take over, and Elon said, "Yep." And Trump saying, "Yeah, we're gonna get rid of all his subsidies," and he's crazy. So we'll get into that in a little bit. That's called a teaser. We're gonna start with the big, beautiful bill. And I'll admit that I'm looking at it slightly different than I thought I was going to be looking at it when I decided we were going to talk about it, right? So I was like, we're going to talk about this thing. It already passed the House, one single vote. Two people that voted for it in the House say that now that they know what's in it, they wouldn't vote for it again. So anything the Senate changes has to go back to the House and be voted for again. And so, Charlie, can you think of any solution for avoiding that kind of problem where you vote yes, but you really wish you would have voted no?
Maybe giving people enough time to read it?
Oh, yeah. And I would just think, don't vote until you read it. Don't vote for something if you haven't read it. Now, some of the things these people are talking about are things that other people were talking about. So I think it's trying to change the narrative after the fact, or the political winds are different or something. But either way, so the big, beautiful bill is Trump's wanting to get a whole bunch of his stuff into one fell swoop passed, right? Get Congress to codify some stuff. The knock on it is it will raise the deficit somewhere between $2 and $6 trillion over the next 10 years, right? Which would be very problematic. Of course, for Republicans and Trumps who ran on saving the economy, not necessarily what you ran on, right? So I used some grok today, which is kind of funny now that Elon's doing what Elon's doing. So I guess first of all, there's people like Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, have come out. They go, I'm not going to vote for something that adds to the deficit. And you go, that makes sense. I agree. Thomas Massey has gone further to illustrate how one could go about doing this by just saying like, hey, look, you want to do no tax on tips and overtime? Here's a bill. No tax on tips and overtime. You want to do, Trump tax cuts permanent? Here you go. Turn it up. Yeah. Let's try it again. Trump tax cuts permanent. And so he's been doing these single issue bills. Like, I've done this and this and this and this and this. And you go, there you go. Why don't y'all vote on those? Because that would be the easiest way. It wouldn't be the easiest, it'd be the cleanest way, and the way to ensure there's not a bunch of hidden garbage, right? Okay. So that's been an issue. Of course, yesterday we probably kicked off this whole beef with old Trump. Elon came out and he said, it's a mess. It's too expensive. The deficit's going to kill us, And you go, all right. So I asked Grok to kind of break down the bill because, of course, the bill's too long to read. It's too long to read. I don't have time. And federal legislation is purposefully impossible to read. If you want to change the wording to something that exists today, it doesn't show a paragraph and then underline new stuff, cross out things you're removing. It just says change the 5th word to change the 17th word to caterpillar, and then you gotta go look up that law, count, go to the page, count the line, find the way, and go, oh, okay, now that says what the hell does that mean now? And so they make it hard to track on purpose because no state does it this way. States can't function that way. They do the underline cross out thing, and it works well. It works great. It's so easy to read state legislation. The federal government should require it. That's how, because the reason it works this way is you have all these big lobbying firms, all these think tanks, all these people that actually write the legislation. So these entities that are not in government who write the legislation that our government passes, they have enough staff and spend time crafting a bill that they can call, Save the Puppies Act, regardless of what it does, and hide the worst stuff, and this is just what they do, So anyway, so I asked Grok to kind of help me analyze this bill because it seems at first blush like a pretty bad thing, right? What? Give me your initial kind of feedback or read on kind of this bill. What's been up with it?
Well, I've only heard the bits and pieces from the likes that are in support of it and against it, but right. I hear big, beautiful, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, yeah, it's probably big, which isn't good, right. And it's probably not beautiful.
And I think that's always fair, And I think before I go into this, one of the problems is that Grok can only analyze what is there, and because legislation is purposefully written in a way to obfuscate everything, there are, of course, elements in here that it will not be able to really report on because it can't necessarily see. It's one of those it's a funding bill, and so there's some stuff that go, just roll over the non-discretionary and blah blah blah, But so I asked what's in here, And so I started looking at this chart, and it is based on how the CBO scores it. Okay. Okay, so just to rattle off, because with the CBO, things that are negative means it adds to the deficit. If it's positive, it means it reduces the deficit by that number. And so that's okay. Extending and expanding rate cuts. That'll add $2 trillion to the deficit. Extending alternative minimum tax repeals for taxpayers with income below $1 million. That's $1.3 trillion added to the deficit. Extending, expanding standard deduction hike, $1.3 trillion added to the deficit. Expanding child tax credit, adds $800 billion to the deficit, adding or expanding the small business deduction, $820 billion. Let's see. Extending estate tax cuts, $212 billion. What? So out of all these, let's see if there's another big one somewhere. Out of all those, what's a common theme with everything in there?
Adding.
Well, but okay. But as far as the line items themselves,
Extending what's currently in place.
well, but it's all talking about tax cuts, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like So as I'm looking at this, because at first I was like, well, negative, positive, what is this? I forgot, and then I remembered. The CBO has very shaky math. The CBO doesn't like tax cuts. It likes tax increases, right?
Okay.
And so say that you go, I want to spend $1 trillion to start the Frank Tax Agency. And I'm going to tax everybody 90% of their income to pay for it. What CBO does is they go, all right, so $1 trillion it's going to cost. Now let's take the population of the country, take 90% of their income away, based on last year's numbers. It was this, adjusted for inflation. Okay, that means, hey, this is actually very good for the deficit. This is a good bill. This will make money. The CBO scores things in a vacuum as if everything that happened last year, like the economy doesn't grow, people pay the same income, nothing's hidden, nothing, no new business expenses or anything like that. Everything just happens. And so just everything's sort of in a vacuum where people and businesses don't have agency to adjust. It's just like whatever happened last year happens this next year. So, you tax 90%. Everybody just pays 90%. Nobody flees the country. Nobody goes gets fancy with tax shelters. Nobody does anything. They just go, here you go. No one goes, I'm not going to work if I keep 10% of my money. I'm going to work on the side, for cash. I'm going to be a waiter, and at an all cash restaurant. But, so that's something that occurred to me with the CBO. So I start looking at it again, and and sure enough, no, don't refresh all that way. Okay. So then, one thing I hate in this bill is, do you know about what the SALT cap is? It's, so how states that aren't Florida, will have an income tax, right? So notoriously California, New York, Missouri, have pretty gnarly state income taxes, and some of them have municipal taxes too. And so what you used to do before the first Trump term is if you got taxed, $5,000 from the state, you would write it off on your federal taxes. So basically it gave the states the ability to tax you as high as they want, because you go people go, well, the federal income tax is, this rate. And if you add this percentage to it from the state, that's 60%. But the way it used to be is, it could be, 25% from the federal government and 35% of the state. And what they would do is that just when you file your federal taxes, everything you paid to the state, you write off on your federal. So you end up saving the taxes there. So you end up paying maybe just the federal tax rate or nothing else. The other side effect of that is, these ads keep, dude in underpants doing curls.
Just keep in the corner of my eye. I'm like, what is flashing over here?
It's a man in long tights doing curls with his package poking out. I'm going to just scroll a little bit. There we go. Now it's Trump grabbing an invisible girl's chest while Mike Johnson looks on.
Surprise, surprise.
Hey, when you're famous, so they just let you do it. So anyway.
we got a little off track.
Okay, anyway, sometimes you just got to grab them by the salt tax. But no, so it was one of those things where another side effect of it is, like, say you're in California and you have really bad policies, right? And instead
California?
It's just an example. This fan is blowing these hairs and tickling my forehead constantly, but it's too hot not to have it on. But yeah, like, just say California had bad policies for, like, income and stuff. People wouldn't have to leave because they write it off, right? And so then, like, California gets their money first, right? And so then the federal government, well, they don't get their money. You know, obviously this is all our money. No one should have it. But then you get, so people who are in a tax-free state, you know, suddenly it's like, well, we got this budget deficit, so we got to raise, you know, maybe we need to raise the income tax on everybody to catch up for this part, you know? And so suddenly these people in a state without state income taxes, yeah, crap, my taxes just went up, in part because all of California, all of New York, they siphoned away all of their bad tax policies and took that out of the federal revenues. And now they go, oh, we got to make up for it. So we got to raise federal taxes to make up for how much we're sending over the state taxes. And so it was one of these in the Trump tax cuts, which were very unimpressive, which, of course, Trump said he would have signed anything. Republicans could have come in, eliminated the income tax. They could have implemented a flat tax. They could have cut taxes to whatever they wanted to. Trump said, as long as it's a tax cut, I'll sign it. Anyway, but one of the things they did is they eliminated that deduction. I think salt is state and local taxes. Mm-hmm. And so they eliminated the deduction. So suddenly, overnight, if you lived in a state or municipality that had income taxes, you got a big tax increase. You know, if you were in Texas, Tennessee, Florida, wherever else, I don't know. You know those three. Without an income tax, you went, okay, so you got a little bit of a tax cut on the federal side, a little bit, and then the salt thing just didn't affect you. You know, who cares? I don't have an income tax to deduct. But people start fleeing. Suddenly people notice what they're paying in California. People start noticing what they're paying in New York. And so a lot of people going down to Tennessee, North Carolina, Texas, Florida. And, you know, people were worrying because they go, well, everyone's fleeing these blue states. We're getting a bunch of blue voters, you know. But so far, Florida went from purple to red. I mean, Texas has been purple for a while, but they seem to be no worse for the wear. You know, Tennessee, all these things. So it's like, you know, the blue area stay blue. You know, city folk move to Nashville. Nashville's blue. But anyway, so that's a big thing. So now a big chunk of Republicans and Democrats, they want to add a greater deduction back to it. And so, like, the salt, they want to have it go up to, you can deduct something like maybe, like, what is it, 40 grand or something in tax payments.
In state tax payments?
Yeah, let's see. Extend the 10 grand
Wow.
salt cap, increase to 40 grand for incomes below 500,000 with limits. So I guess your write-off was capped at 10 grand, or maybe it was only 10 grand of your. I'm gonna have to look into that and see exactly how it was, but
yeah, it seems like it's 10 grand of your state income taxes written off of your federal.
Yeah, that's just a lot of state income taxes. I mean, because even at 500 grand, I mean, to get up to $40,000, I guess it's a little less than 10%. It's 8%. Yeah, I guess states. Yeah,
that tracks. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I guess right now it's capped at 10. So, you know, if you have an 8% state tax and you get paid $500,000, like, well, that 30 grand you don't get a write off. You know, so there's a lot of pressure from rich people in taxed areas to get their deductions back. So with that one, you know, it's creating a deduction, which normally people love, but in this deduction, it all goes, you know, basically it's to the state. Somehow they say that's going to create 787 billion in revenue.
Really, the only way that it helps people because it lowers your income. But if it lowers your income and drops you into a lower tax bracket, that's when it really helps you. So you have to be on like a cusp of brackets.
Increase to 40 items below 500. Yeah, I don't.
'Cause it goes from like 80,000 or 82,000, then up to I think the next bracket starts at 200 and something thousand.
The way I was thinking it was like if you paid, you know, currently it's if you pay anywhere from $0 to $10,000 that you pay in state and local taxes, you can write off that expense on your federal taxes, which would then, of course, do what you're saying, drop your income level lower.
And keep in mind, there's effective and then marginal too.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know how with that they say that that's going to raise, because if that's also a federal tax cut, essentially, it's money that the federal government's not going to get because the states get it still.
So that would they would take in less.
You would think so, but the CBO scores it that they'll take in $787 billion more. I don't know. That's the thing. CBO can get wonky. And the thing about CBO is it always hates a tax cut. A tax cut is always detrimental.
Because it doesn't bring in revenue.
Right. And so the thing is, like, so a new tax, according to CBO scoring, a new tax is always a good thing. And elimination of a tax or a lowering of tax is always a bad thing. Now, does that match your view on taxation?
No. Absolutely not.
Right. And if you look at times, you know, people poo on Reaganomics and trickle-down economics and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times when you cut taxes, you get more productivity. You know, income taxes penalize making income. And so corporate taxes, of course, they just pass through income taxes to the people. But the less you restrain people and the ventures they get in, a lot of times they become more productive and they just go, cool, I'm going to keep what I earn. Time to earn, you know? And it's happened time and time again. You know, you see, I mean, even at a state level, people were not flocking to New York and California. You know, they still got Silicon Valley. They're still doing fine. But, you know, people are going to Austin, Texas. People are going to Nashville, Chattanooga. People are trying out new places. I think Kansas was heavily recruiting some people. And so it's just, you know, these states were going, you want to come here and save some money? And then, of course, they're probably corporate welfaring out the wazoo. Be like, hey, plus we won't charge you property taxes for 50 years. And all that. So big, beautiful bill. So then I go, like, I'm remembering that I don't trust the CBO. And that I've never really trusted the CBO. And so then I go, okay, so, you know, in this, let's see, come on. So in just the, I forgot, I gotta look up what that stands for real quick. It's a big acronym that doesn't make any sense. But basically just in like tax cuts for businesses, for individuals, plus like the SALT crud and repeal personal dependent exemption, whatever that is. They go, okay, that's going to be all these tax cuts. Not like having a 0% estate tax sounds pretty good. Up to, I forget what it's up to, like 30 million. You can, for a couple can leave 30, a single person can leave 15 mil, no taxes. So they go right there. That's basically 3.9 trillion in deficits added. And so you go. So before we get into the, I guess probably new taxes or whatever, they go, all right, well, basically $4 trillion in added deficits from tax cuts. And I go, I don't believe that to be true. Yeah, I get it. I mean, we need to cut our spending like crazy. But saying it's going to add $4 trillion to the deficit through tax cuts is different than let's spend money to make money. Tax cuts are not spending money. Like Congress needs to cut spending, and if they go, we got to pay for these tax cuts somehow. No, you don't. No, you don't.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, and DC has never looked at things that way. They think money is infinite. We spend whatever we want based on whatever we want. Tax cut, who cares? We're going to spend this money. Tax raise, who cares? We're going to spend this money. This doesn't matter. Everyone elected, minus a few good folks, they're essentially modern monetary theory people. Like they'll pretend I'm a conservative. I believe in small business and low taxes. And you go, oh yeah, like how do you balance your checkbook? They go, well, I do it the old-fashioned way. It's like, oh yeah, because in government you just spend whatever you want, and you say, well, we got to do it, otherwise it's a disaster. There's no limiting factor on spending, and like the money that comes in is just sort of like that's cool.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's like, hey, we brought in $4 trillion in tax. The only time it matters is if is at the end of the year, whatever your policies were, as a president, assuming that you're president, you have a majority, you pass the legislation that you want to pass, you go up there and you go, and the plan's working. We brought in a record of this many trillion in taxes this year. Oh, what? And that's the only time people talk about tax revenue is because it's a sign that what they did worked. It's taxes. You tax people, you get money. So with that, I've been suddenly thinking my opposition to the big, beautiful bill might not be as strong as I thought it was 24 hours ago. Like now we'll get into some of the bad.
Because you think the CBO is misanalyzing it?
Right. Because the big thing about why it's bad, for the most part, without getting into the details, but the general point of it is look how much money it's going to add to the deficit. And that's Elon's point too. We can't add this much to the deficit. Massey, Paul, I will not vote for anything that adds money to the deficit. Cool. I just don't know. I just don't know if it's ever wrong to lower taxes. Like you should eliminate taxes. Like if you're saying, well, let's lower it instead of eliminating. Okay, well, you're wrong. We should eliminate it. But lowering taxes is a good thing. Not stealing people's money when they die because they're no longer alive to stop you from stealing their money. Like that's a bad thing. And like getting penalized for being a small business owner, and being like, all right, well, we'll give you a little bit more of a tax break for being a small business owner. Like, I think that's a good thing. Also the estate tax doesn't just help like wealthy people. It helps like small farmers, because a lot of times what happens with a small farmer is, the grandparents die or whatever. And so they go to leave it to their kids or grandkids or whatever. And then the tax man comes in and goes, well, this here's worth $15 million, this property. Like all this land, look at all this land. It's $15 million. You owe us 35%, we'll just call it $6 million, And so you get these people who have grown up on a farm and they go, we drive old Fords and Chevys and stuff. Like, we've never seen $1 million in our life. How are we going to pay you $6 million? Yeah, I guess you got to sell the farm. Then y'all will have $9 million after you give us our cut. You go, oh, all right. And then, you put it for sale. Monsanto buys it, and so, or some other but typically somebody like that buys it. And then you go, here's the tax bill, government. Glad the family farm that's been in our family for generations is not anymore, so that they can plant seeds that don't require pollen and spray a bunch of crud on it that makes it so the soil's gone and everything sucks. But one day, maybe that corn will become gasoline. Ethanol. So that sort of estate tax thing does help, like, family farmers too, because like land is valuable, and once someone's like, how much money do you have to spend while you're mourning the loss of your relative to say my land's worth less than you say, tax man? And like, really, you'll have to spend thousands of dollars fighting it to hopefully just reduce your tax bill to another number that's unaffordable. So this $30 million, $15 to $30 million, that could help family farms kind of save their stuff.
I would just poop on my land and be like, it is no longer worth that because there's poop on it.
There you go. Case closed.
Is that $30 million poop? I don't think so.
It's like, who wants to buy this land? It's covered in poop. Look at it. Look at it. Just let the dog out. Like, no, the dog's pooping on it. They go, that's good fertilizer. It's rich land. So I don't know what. So and then like later, some of the stuff added in this reduces the deficit down because it's like taxes or whatever, and we'll talk about some of the bad stuff that's in here. But I don't know. So what are your thoughts on viewing it that way?
Well, I mean, like you said, and to go along with Trump's entire marketing campaign, if you want to make America great again, get rid of taxes so people will reinvest in America.
Yeah.
Like, it's common sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing, a lot of those things are in here. Of course, it's not all good. What the hell does this stand for? Give me a second. I just have to see. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017. Okay. So TCJA is the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act, which I think is the Trump tax cuts. Does that add up? 2017, 8 years ago? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so yeah, like that $3.8 trillion, the $4 trillion thing I was talking about, that was just the Tax Cuts and Job Act extensions and deductions, or extensions and additions or whatever. So with that alone, you go, well, once again, I don't believe tax cuts create a deficit. Period. Spending creates a deficit. Tax cuts do not create a deficit.
Tax cuts should force you to spend less.
You should be happy to spend less. Let me see. So then I was like, okay, let me.
If the goal was to balance a budget,
we'll get into that with the Trump stuff. Let's see. Then, I think there's. So there's a lot of other stuff in here that you go. There's like committees created and committees just spend money, so there's probably stuff hidden in there. Other things this thing does, maybe we'll go through some of these people and see see what their least favorite is. One of the things, I guess we'll start with this because it's ridiculous. Did you hear about the Trump accounts?
Oh, no.
This establishes Trump accounts.
Like
Trump accounts.
Just some sort of asset? Like
It's a Trump account.
like a service from a bank? Like what
It starts an account so that anybody born in 2024, 2025 and beyond, I think it was, they will get a savings account with $1,000 cash from the federal government that each child can touch after they're 18. Parents can contribute up to, I want to say $5,000 a year or something like that into it. And it's a savings account. And I don't know exactly who controls it, if it's like your Social Security account or if it's like an actual thing, like an actual account at a bank or in a brokerage somewhere.
does it earn interest or
Is
it invested?
Yeah, they call it a savings account. Oh. And so it's
not going to save anything.
I know. But then so you can add to it, and when you're 18, you can use it. Oh, I just bored myself. Sorry, when you're 18, you can use it towards education or that sort of thing, a down payment on a house.
Okay, so it's flexible. All right.
Yeah, there's a number of things that can be spent on that aren't all in the same wheelhouse. But you got to pay capital gains.
I was just going to ask. Is it taxed on the way out?
It's taxed on the way out. And
of course it is.
Yeah, capital gains somehow, which I don't know how you even do that. You go, because if it's a savings account, is the gain the $1,000 you got plus any interest it grew? Because other than that, the interest is the gain because your basis. I guess 0 was your basis, and then it became worth $1,000, and so you got a capital gain on that. I guess kind of.
Yeah, and then every installment or every deposit in there would have its own starting point of gain.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's very weird. Let me see if I can.
I don't like it.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Where does it say here? Originally, it was called MAGA accounts, money accounts for growth advancement.
Of course it was.
Let's see.
Really thinking outside the box there, guys.
All right. Still savings accounts established for children born between 24 and 28. Federal government gives $1,000 a child. Parents can contribute up to $5,000 a year. Higher education, job training, first home. Accounts allow tax-deferred growth, meaning income earned on investments. Oh, I guess there are investments. If it's investable, that's cool.
And the parents can write off their deposit off their own income taxes?
I don't know that one. Probably not. Well, I don't know. I guess you could gift it. I guess that'd be gifting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if you can't, you can.
Just legally speaking. I would assume because you're gifting it to your child and you're putting it into essentially their investment portfolio.
It's like buying a bond for someone that matures when they're 18 or whatever.
It's like that, but it sounds like it might actually get invested, which sounds like it means you have some control over it. Because that's one of the challenges with this, right? It's all right, let's just say it works like an IRA or 401k, right? Who's the brokerage managing it or the whatever managing it? And are you going to give the entire population born between 24 and 28? It's only $1,000 per account to start with. But that's a lot of money.
They're just supporting their encouragement for people to have babies. This is nuts.
Well, and that's what they talked about in the campaign. Vivek talked about doing this in Ohio. Yeah. No, this is about making babies.
That's all it is.
Yeah, we'll give you $1,000 per baby.
Do I get the option to? I mean, obviously, I'm not having a kid now, but do you get the option to pay the taxes now because taxes will always be lower now rather than the future?
We have a fundamental disagreement on this
Because then you've created the Roth IRA all over again.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, are you giving everyone like an IRA? Are you giving everyone a 401k? Like, are you giving like, and who manages it? Who gets commissions? Who do you pay? Are there fees someone's getting? Is the federal government managing it? You know, it's like, it's like, what are we talking about? If the federal government's managing it, is it like they manage Social Security where like they looked around there one day, they go, why don't we just write an IOU?
What money?
It's fine. Like, it's there. We account for it. Just like a bank. We account for it. It's there. It's just not there. You know? Can I look at it? No. It's like, can I choose how that money's invested? They go, no. We will pay you money in the future. You go, okay. So I don't know. But Trump accounts was one of the funny ones here. Let me think of which direction I want to go on this one. But basically the highest expenditures, because I asked, like, what are the highest expenditures in here? Like, I say, ignore deficit considerations. What are expenditures? And it's, shipbuilding, defense, you know. Might have been one.
Can we build drones?
Man, I wish. Isn't that what took out?
With all the news, like, why are we building more ships?
Well, I think the ships still have value.
And I guess they could launch the drones.
They can launch the drones, and I think there is still use for like ships as far as like overall maritime defense. You know, we should definitely bring Jimmy in to talk about it. Like he thinks instead of a Navy being part of a Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, whatever, that it should be a maritime defense agency or something like that. So instead of just being tasked with the war, the sea-based war, it's like, well, no, it's part of protecting commerce lanes. It's because as much as I think it'd be better. It's tough with insurance, but as much as it'd be better, I think for just, you got a ship, just load up on guns. Like everybody's a warship. I mean, that would be ideal. I hear that there's challenges when it comes to insurance. As soon as you bring in like good guns, your insurance costs go up so much.
What's the threshold?
I think it's, I don't know, like it's a caliber based thing.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it's like, if you got like rifles and stuff, even if it's probably, I mean, ARs for sure, but maybe AKs, I don't know. It's fine. But like you put some 50 cals on there.
Things change.
And things change, and like, that's, I couldn't imagine like not having a bunch of just like, at least 50 cals at your disposal.
On the front and the back.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Put on the sides, too.
Yep.
More. Let's do like the cannons of old. They just slide out windows in the side of the boat. But, in light of that, where apparently most ships, too, they fly, what is it called? Flags of convenience. And so there's like countries like, I want to say Liberia or somebody like that. Really? But there's countries that sell the flag for their nation. So instead of flying a U.S. flag where you got to worry about U.S. stuff, you're part of this nation where you basically just paid them however many grand and give them a kickback and you get that flag. And so it makes it less of an international incident for that nation. But
I feel like I need to start a flag business.
First, you got to start a country. But anyway, I guess this point was with things as they stand today, it might make, might make sense to just have the Navy be more proactively involved in commerce, where we go, hey, look, these are our shipping lanes, and we're going to make sure no nonsense happens to our ships and our shipping lanes. Even if they're not our ships, if they're coming to or from our country, along our lanes, they're friends to us, and let's make sure they stay safe. Excuse me. So I think
It's a good idea.
well, and part of me also thinks, like, if you having ships may allow you the freedom to close down some of these overseas bases is part of my view too, because it's like if you can be there by sea, maybe you don't need to occupy wherever that, at least places we've been forever. Like maybe we close some of them down, and then it's just if ships are cruising around anyway, it's like cool. It's like if we need to launch, we can launch stuff, drones from there. Like, wasn't it drones that took out all those Russian ships that didn't Ukraine used drones for those? Somebody gave them drones,
And the airport that they have footage of all that going on. It's just a constant bombardment.
Yeah. No, the drones are wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need swarms of those because that's, I'm sure there'll be drones taking out aircraft carriers, Of course, then you get defenses against those. But, okay. So one thing I find fun is looking at some of the other things, looking to see how people react as far as what's good and bad, and the big beautiful bill, because there is additional bad.
I was just seeing the title of this and the subtitle are great.
Yeah.
The horrors.
Well, here's what we were talking about, people. 10 sneaky sleeper provisions in Trump's big beautiful bill today on tap. And there's Trump grabbing the invisible woman's chest, trying to kiss her. Look at him. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. All right. So according to these prospect.org or something, and in it, here are some of the sneaky stuff. Bonus, here. Crippling the courts. The bill, hiding behind the premise that an appropriations measure prohibits any funds from being used to carry out court orders holding the executive branch officials in contempt. This is interesting because if Congress passes it, that is one branch who's supposed to control the purse strings, limiting the purse strings on another branch, which they're technically allowed to do. Trump can't do that. But Congress, I think, might be allowed to do that.
Isn't that a paradox?
Your mom's a paradox. So, like, I don't know how much it would cost to hold the executive branch in contempt. I don't understand what costs are involved in that, to be honest. But the Congress goes, there's no funding for that. So I guess if you can't actually do whatever measures one would do, because I guess if you say you can't fly out planes of migrants, can you then say we demand you to ground all these flights? And if you go like, do you have any money to pay for that lack of commerce? No, I don't got any money for it. They go, guess we're flying. Yeah, we'll be flying. So that's an interesting one where I go, how do you even? I wonder how you even challenge that. Would you challenge it up to the courts?
Enable Trump and his officials to defy court orders?
Well, yeah, because they'll be like, all right, you can't, we're not going to. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. That's a weird one.
If the courts have the nerve to say so.
Well, that's the thing. Like, how do you even challenge that? Because you challenge it through the courts, and the courts go, you can't defund me. And then you go to the Supreme Court, and Congress goes, it's our job to fund. And then the Supreme Court has to go, according to the Constitution, Congress sets the funds. They're allowed to do that. If there is a line item for such things.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, it's weird. Bonus for the tax prep industry. I guess there used to be a way, I guess Biden passed away, you can file directly with the IRS instead of going through a tax prep site. Did you even know that?
Well, so like TurboTax markets the free.
Sure, but apparently there's a way that you can do it without.
It's never free.
Well, apparently there's an IRS tool that's not TurboTax. That's not any of
I
those.
did not know that.
I didn't either. But anyway, they're going to get rid of that. I guess it was available in 25 states.
Ah,
That's
okay.
awesome. I bet you the blue states ones that got that one in the Biden years. But anyway, that's going away, I guess. Not that you can't just print up your forms and still file your taxes. You know, you can still do it. All right, more savaging of migrants. So it's they're going to $45 billion to build immigration jails. It also adds several fees intended to harass the illegal immigrants. Charges families $3,500 to reunite with a child who arrived alone at the border, and a person seeking asylum will have to pay an application fee of at least $1,000. The reuniting with the kid thing's crazy, unless you're also doing like detective work. If it's like, where's my mommy daddy? Or they're like, we've lost my little papito. You go, all right, we'll track him down. It's going to take a while. Then you go, $3,500. Like, your kid was being smuggled into the country repeatedly for years. We have no idea where he is, and is probably in not good condition. So there's a fee. I don't know. Everything's a little bit different if it's, if they're going to a private detective's office, I'll find your kid for you. I'll reunite him. It's going to cost you. I got certain expenses. All right. Terminating the tax status of nonprofits. So this is one where the administration has the power to define nonprofits as terrorist supporting organizations and expedite the ending of their tax status. This is ostensibly directed at pro-Palestinian groups, but could be used to suppress free speech and activism of climate organizations and others. Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they could designate a church or a museum as a terrorist organization.
A terrorist supporting organization.
Interesting.
So if you were this is about Palestinians. This is about the Free Palestine kind of movement. Where you go, hey, look, you support Hamas. You're a terrorist supporting organization if you've spoken well of Hamas. Which, Hamas sucks, but
we want tax revenue from your terrorist funds. This is insane.
Yeah, you can keep operating. You can keep operating for Hamas. You gotta pay us our cut.
This is the mob. This is the blatant mob.
The government has always been the blatant mob, Charlie. This is just a new mob boss.
This is hilarious.
Excuse me. This is a sticky one. Blocking state regulation of AI. So this is one that was just, no one talked about it, but for 10 years, this bill says states cannot pass any AI regulation, except if the rule reduces restrictions on an AI company. So on the one hand, you go, all right, I don't want to see a bunch of rules or something necessarily. At least a hodgepodge of rules. But then you go, well, the federal government's still allowed to pass regulations during this time, and they're basically trying to say they're the sole regulatory authority is the federal government. And so that doesn't sound good.
Nope.
Because it's not like anything gets corrupted in Washington, D.C. And
that's all we need is for them to utilize AI to keep that going.
Well, there's that too. Because that's the thing. Like if a state goes, you can't use AI to, process data on Florida citizens, the government goes, we're going to do that. We do that. And we're going to do it more. Palantir is getting involved. Peter Thiel and his homies.
Wait, they said they weren't going to, though.
Well, they're gonna.
That's my favorite response. We're not going to do that. Okay.
It's like, what funding did you get to start up Palantir? Do you know who gave them their funding, Charlie?
I don't know exactly.
What if I told you the abbreviation involved 3 letters? The first one is C.
This is a tough one. I'd like to solve.
All right. CBS News. No, so yeah, no, they literally got funny because they were talking about how they want it's more effective database kind of stuff, and so they go, yeah, well, they go like, hey, you got all these agencies, no one talks to each other. They should talk to each other. Let's get it all together. Let them all actively have the same information. And on the one hand, when you go, I mean, it makes sense. Why do we have all these simultaneous databases? I gotta waste money. On the other hand, they also talk about maybe it incorporates things like camera footage from security cameras, police departments, or other places they have access, like public facing data. Maybe that should go into the file because you just scrape it with the internet. And so they were discussing this a while ago, and this dude was just like, that's what I've been wanting to do. I forget. I think some W. Bush guy. And they're like, oh, yeah? Like, yeah, we're thinking about starting up a company. And they go, son of a bitch, I'm in. And so CIA gave, I forget what it was, $300 million or something to help develop it. And those people are already coming in with a contract. So there's that. But this is one that I don't know if this holds up in court, right? Well, I don't know. It's like, because any power not specifically designated in the Constitution as being a power of the federal government is a power of the state. Now, it's things have been deferred and punted, and there's the the regulatory what was that called, the act that allowed them to do the EPA and stuff and do all that crap. But so this one I think should fall apart under a Supreme Court challenge. Every state should challenge this, and I think something like 40 attorneys general, or maybe 45, have already been like, this is BS. So this part, I think even if they pass it, I think it's shot down this year.
Good.
Yeah. It seems wild to me. I don't want more regulations from more different agencies, but it's we're not going to centralize this thing and just trust that they're going to be the good guys about it. Come on. Okay, these people say it's gutting the estate tax. As if the current exemptions were not enough, the bill raises the no tax floor to a staggering $15 million for single and $30 million for couples. So a couple could leave $29.99 million that they earned in their lifetime legally and kept through their hard work or their grandparents' hard work, or however they got their damn money. That they didn't steal it from you through taxes, probably. Some of them probably did. But there's Pelosi's and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, tax-free. And so, of course, that, according to these people, that is gutting. They say it weakens the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,500 per child. So that's a greater child tax credit. It also lowers eligibility income threshold, making millions of children eligible. I don't know what they don't mention it, so it must still be a pretty high number. Expanding school vouchers. So they got $20 billion in tax credits to donors who give money to voucher schools. So it sounds like you have a certain amount of money you can write off if you donate to a private school that accepts vouchers. Well, most private schools are nonprofits anyway. I think you can already write off to them. Anyway, stealth cuts in the Affordable Care Act. The bill allows tax credits that subsidize ACA premiums to expire at the end of 2025. Excuse me. So basically what that is, the last one's great though. Support for gun silencers. They want to remove the $200 excise tax on the sale of gun silencers. I support. That should have no lawful purpose other than concealing shootings. Just making it quieter.
It's not like you can't hear it.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's just it doesn't hurt as bad. Like the thing too is like these people.
We don't want to hear people getting murdered.
No, and they're awesome. I don't know. You shoot a gun, and all of a sudden you go, oh, look at that. I can take my ears off. I can take my ears off, and it doesn't make my ears bleed. That's enjoyable, But so it is funny, and so like bouncing around. Let's see, banning state regulation is massively
Marketing is hilarious.
Oh yeah, one big beautiful bill act. All right, there's this good bad. So the tax foundation. The tax foundation. I don't even know who they are. It sounds like they should be a. They seem at first like they're an anti-tax, like they're a right-wing think tank or something, because they go, the good is, some tax cuts. Good is tax cuts, but then they also like the SALT tax crap, which I don't know. They also liked, what is this? Oh, this is the other thing. So there's some regulation being cut out of the Inflation Reduction Act that was also called like the Green New Deal, because of all this green energy tax cuts. But instead of eliminating all of it, they go, well, let's keep a few things, So I imagine it's things that help with corn subsidies and other kind of hometown industries that are greasing the wheel. They go, well, listen. Let's see. What is this? Spends far too much money on political gimmicks and carve-outs. Minus boost, huge fiscal cost. Basically, they're saying, like, on some of this stuff, they're just like, they did some cuts, but they could have done better cuts. You go, all right, that's fine. They don't like the way businesses are going to be able to write off R&D expenses to a greater extent. So it's like one of those things you go, okay. They go, you should have done it differently. All right. Let's see, what was the other thing? Including these pro-growth measures lawmakers could have reduced the cost of the bill, including these pro-growth measures by trillions of dollars by cleaning up the tax code. Yeah, they could have. They didn't do that. All right, let's see what the ugly was on this. Oh, I should probably let the people see that what I'm mumbling through. Let's see. What is this? No tax on tips, of course. So the bill further complicates the tax codes in several ways, sending taxpayers through a maze of new rules and compliance costs that in many cases probably outweigh any potential tax benefits. No tax on tips, overtime, and car loans comes to various conditions if guardrails and guardrails that, if enacted, will likely require hundreds of pages of IRS guidance to interpret. This is something I don't understand. It's a tip. It's not taxed. It's overtime. It's not taxed. It's a car loan. I think with a car loan, you're allowed to deduct the interest at the end, like with a home loan. I think you can solve all of those with less than one page of regulation. Mm-hmm. What is this?
They never take into account, all of those deductions work in somebody's favor if it's more than the standard deduction.
Right.
Like if you're itemizing, it's favorable. If you're not, you just take the standard deduction and that's it.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
And yeah, no, I know. And that's the thing. Like some of this stuff that I go through, some people are mad. The big beautiful bill would create a regulation-free AI hellscape. AJ is warned. They go, without us regulating it, it'll be a hellscape. So that's 40 of them. Okay. So all that to be said, there's bad stuff in here too. The SALT deductions, obviously, there's a good bit of military spending. But I do wonder, there's something. Oh, the Trump accounts is a nightmare. They should not do that. I don't do the Trump accounts. And then like the AI stuff shouldn't happen, but that should get struck down in court. But anyway, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like a whole lot of what is considered deficit addition is tax cuts. And so my response to that is, cut spending, you know? And so one of the big things that this also does is they're lumping in increasing the debt limit, you know? And it's like, no, don't do that part. Like, increase it by $4 trillion or $6 or whatever it is. You go, well, if you increase it by that much, you're just going to spend up to that much. And they go, yeah, but it's going to stop another fight about it at the end of the year, or end of 2 years or 3 years, however many years, you know? And you go, let's just have that fight, okay? Because that's like that they should get rid of. And so, like, there's some Republicans that go, like, you cannot increase the debt limit, I won't vote for it. Some go, I need to see some more for the salt. You know, we need more deductions for salt, or I won't vote for it. And there's a number of Republicans looking for all sorts of stuff. If the deductions are largely, or if the deficit additions are largely from the tax cuts as opposed from new expense, that does make me go, I'm not as worried about it as I thought I was, you know, assuming this thing's probably going to get rammed through, you know. One thing that, so Elon came out and he said this bill's a disaster. Chip Roy came out and said, well, you know, there's EV subsidies and stuff like that go away with this. We think, you know, I think part of it might have to do with that. And my whole thing is, okay, maybe that has to do with it. But every electric car company would lose that subsidy. Also, between SpaceX and XAI, especially with XAI and their familiarity with Palantir and all that kind of stuff, you know, Elon stands to make much more money than Tesla money, you know? Or at least he did. So just to touch on it for a minute. Let's just see what we got. Let's see if anything new has occurred. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, let's see.
I just want to say for the record, Tesla is just a means for him to fund the next things. Like, that's all. I don't think Tesla. He shows that like Tesla is his big thing, but it's not. It's everything else that came after Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, that's. I think everything's really to fund being interplanetary.
Yep.
And okay, so there's been so much. Okay. Let's see. At some point, Elon Musk. This is just going on forever. He's calling it the big ugly spending bill. Let's see. What did Massey said? The House had okay. So Elon Musk 5 hours ago. So this bill was never shown to me even not once, and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress even read it. Massey said the House has a 72-hour rule, which requires the bill to be posted 72 hours before passage, but the Speaker circumvented this rule with a manager's amendment that rewrote and added substantial portions of the bill as it went through the Rules Committee the night the bill was passed. There's another House rule which requires a day to pass before voting on a bill after the Rules Committee has modified it. Would you believe the House voted to suspend that so-called same-day rule? This means the final language of the bill was released only a few minutes before the debate began. The vote on the rule changed, and the vote of the bill followed within a couple of hours. Elon is right. Members of Congress didn't even know what was in this bill until... obviously. They never know what's in the bill. But, so, Elon dropped it. When was this? He's just tweeting so much. All right. Basically, he said that they're not releasing the Epstein files because Trump's in it. I mean, Trump's definitely in the Epstein files. Like, he flew in the plane. We knew he flew in the plane. You know, there's a lot of people in the Epstein files. There's people who were targets that, you know, Epstein honeypotted. There's probably unsuccessful targets. There are people who probably helped fund or found a company that may have created a very popular operating system, who probably kind of kept going back for more, maybe didn't ask questions with a little wink, or maybe knew what was up. So there's a there's a mix of people in the Epstein files. Theoretically, there's like people got tricked, people that knew what was up, and the people that just happened to be in his orbit. Like that's going to be the mixture. So like, yeah, Trump's definitely in there somewhere. Which category? You can only hope which one he lands in. But so Trump at some point goes, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate, and that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. Elon said, such an obvious lie. So sad. Let's see. Here you go. Time dropped a really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they've not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. Then
Will it, though?
Trump said the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. I always surprised Biden didn't do it. And so Elon said, in light of President's statement about cancellation of my government contract, SpaceX will begin decommissioning the Dragon spacecraft immediately. And so you go like,
Billionaire pissing contest. Great.
Billionaire pissing contest. It is one of those things you go like, dude's going hard in the paint. He does make a lot of money off of government contracts, especially with SpaceX. And I don't know. It's wild. Let's see what else there was.
And old Vladdy's like, excellent.
Oh, sure. Elon also said an hour ago, Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of the year. He posted some 1992 video clip of Trump partying with Epstein. And then he has a poll running. Is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? And I think it's time to join the Libertarian Party. But I do wonder how much... I do wonder, because he had something like, whatever happened to this guy? And then he posted like an exchange where like Trump's just like, I'm a Republican and like everybody should be voted out of office that adds any money to the deficit. Horribly irresponsible, yada, yada, yada. And goes, did somebody brainwash him? Did someone, kidnap him and brainwash him? So you wonder if this is just like total frustration that like he was brought in to trim, $1 trillion, and he was able to get like $9 billion that's kind of going to get trimmed out, 9 billion is not a lot. 1 trillion was not enough. And so, you wonder how much of this is him feeling like he was sold a false bill of goods. You do also wonder, with all the stories coming out after he left government, where people were saying that he was talking about, Elon Musk was talking about how he took so much ketamine that it was affecting his ability to like hold in his pee, which I guess is one of the symptoms of ketamine abuse, and that he was also taking shrooms and acid, microdosing or otherwise, I don't know, and that he had like a little medicine case with him that had Adderall, and at least Adderall and probably something else in it. And you go, well, the Adderall makes sense. And you go, I don't know, maybe. If he's taking, like some people are taking ketamine, like maybe he's been taking a lot of drugs. Like as far as picking this fight goes, it's just a weird one to do. Like it's one thing to be like, I don't like this bill, I don't like this bill. But just suddenly be like, Trump's on Epstein's list, and that's why he won't let it be released.
Like he's binging out, right? He's binging right now.
Yeah, or something, because you have to assume that something happened, at least after his post, where I don't know if Trump and him had a phone call, if someone else told him something Trump was saying. Trump started squawking on truth, but I don't know that came before Elon stuff, because Trump's just like, he's like, yeah, let him go. It was not good or whatever. Like the bromance definitely seems to be over. But I don't know. You don't know. No one read the bill, which is true. It's hard to get a good analysis of the bill. It's fine to be in opposition of it too, and like to take the position of Massey, and like, Elon never liked the tariffs. He was open about that and don't like the tariffs, and a lot of people said they didn't like the tariffs too. And Trump's like, we're gonna go with the tariffs. I think it's the right thing. Lots of people openly dislike the tariffs, and it's not like that was a secret to Trump. But this took a suddenly hard turn. Like, what the hell happened earlier today that caused this to just go like, screw it, And like, he could just be trolling because like, Trump literally is in the Epstein files. He's in the flight logs. Like,
well, he's in a picture with what's her face too.
Yeah, just lying. And there's like videos of him being at the same party as like Epstein, all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those things, like, it could be a troll, but it's a hell of a thing to troll like the sitting president, who is one of the most like petty, vindictive guys that's ever been. And like, I don't know, you launch a lot of rockets, and you need federal approval for that. And like, there's a lot of, you pissed off. Yeah, so you pissed off the Democrats pretty hardcore. They all want to ruin you. You're going to go after Trump. So you're going to have everybody that hates Trump wants to ruin you. And now you can go after the people who love Trump. And now those people are going to like,
welcome to the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Tesla and any other publicly traded company, they're going to force him out.
Yep.
Like, they're going to force him out. They're going to like, look, we can't sell cars if you piss off the Democrats and the Republicans. What, we're going to sell cars to 20% of the population that's left? We can't sell cars this way,
Especially if they get rid of the tax credit for it, too.
Yeah, that makes it harder, too. But it's like everyone's calling you a Nazi, drawing on our cars, and now the MAGA people are going to be coming at you, too, calling you a traitor or whatever. So, what's our timestamp there?
1:15.
1:15. Okay, cool. We didn't go that bad. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how this is going to shake out. It's all pretty new. It's a bold move, Charlie. See how that works out.
It does sound like he just ripped it hard and was like, you know what?
Yeah, yeah, it does make you go like, what? I wonder if he's happy about this tomorrow. Like, I don't know.
He's in an acid scape right now, thinking that none of this is real.
And also you go like, holy cow! Like, part of me goes, it's just it's such a bold move to openly go to verbal war with Donald Trump. Good on you, but it's such a move where you go like, something seems off. Like, if he's found hanging in his house tomorrow, like, I'm going to think that he did not type out his tweets. It's I don't know. It's something. Real quick on a Florida focus thing. David Jolly just threw his hat in the ring to run for governor of Florida as a Democrat. He was the Republican congressman for our district after what's his face, C.W. Bill Young passed, because Jolly was his assistant and then became a lobbyist and then came back to run. It was horrible. He was horrible. One of these, like, he didn't believe in anything. Every time he voted, I'd write a letter, be like, explain your vote to me. So I'd get a letter every time he voted. But he's just the worst. And then he helped start a political party. I forget what it's called. But they basically said that they were going to use like internet polls and stuff like that to figure out what their principles were, because it was more about the people. So let's figure out what our principles are by doing polls about what y'all think. And you go, so So do you believe in anything? Do you have beliefs?
Are you even trying?
Yeah. And so then, so you try that whole thing. And I think that party merged with the Forward Party. I think it was called Sam or something. There's Ram. They merged together. I was like, let's see how this goes. But now he says, I'm going to be a Democrat. I'm going to run for governor. So I don't know. Hopefully we have some alternatives because Byron Donaldson. What is his name? Byron Donalds. Anyway, he's a congressman. I think a freshman congressman out of Naples or somewhere in Southwest Florida. But I don't know that he's got an executive. He's a good fella to go on talk shows and stuff. He's good at talking on camera. And then maybe Casey DeSantis is running. And people always say that she's the brains of the operation, the DeSantis household. So you go, okay, but first lady's her qualification, and then I don't know someone else. So it'd be nice to get somebody. Otherwise, we're just gonna have these turds in Tallahassee that are doing the GOP majority stuff, and they're all refusing to push forward with, I guess it would have just been a property tax rebate in favor of reducing sales tax. Is so stupid. Obviously property taxes affect everybody. Problem is that counties are funded by property taxes, so it's hard to kind of make that work from a state level. But we're tourist state, and sales tax is, consumption tax. And so you go, well, at least a big point. And sales tax pays for everything. It pays for everything in the state. And so to reduce it, you go that's one of those things I know, I was just saying a tax cut's always a good thing. It's in this case, when we go, we primarily fund things through our sales tax, which aren't crazy. It's statewide at 6%, 7% Pinellas. Lower tax is cool. But they better couple that with gobs of less spending, because we were already in a questionable place budget-wise going into this next year. And if you take out the main source of revenue, which a lot of it comes from tourists, then I don't know. What's the plan? Because you need to cut government services. If you're cutting sales tax by a third, you need to cut government services by at least a third. Maybe a little bit more than that. And they're not going to, of course.
Yeah, you can't hope that or gamble that people are going to spend more money because they're spending less tax.
Yeah, sales tax is one of those where there's probably some modest change, but I don't think it's it's not it's not like income tax where it's I got less money to spend, so I'm gonna spend less. I get the more I make, the more I lose. This is all right, if I buy chips, I gotta pay a tax on it. And you go, well, instead of paying $1.07, now it's gonna be $1.04, $1.05. You go, okay,
right?
It'll be something. Overall, the course of a year, you'll notice something, but I don't think you'll notice that much. But overall, on a statewide level, they need to cut government services like crazy, which, is something they need to do. If I thought there was a chance they'd actually do it, I'd be yeah, let's do both and cut a bunch of government. But then, obviously, they're not going to do both. Cutting spending is hard to explain, You go, well, we don't know. So I don't know. I guess to summarize, I don't know what to think about the big, beautiful bill. There's lots of garbage in it. I wish they would do it Thomas Massey's way, where they break it off, do individual bills. That way you do know what's in it. Tax cut, tax elimination, whatever. That's the right way to do it. They're not doing that. But if we're talking about, if the deficits we're talking about are just based on these tax decreases, then, passing the tax decreases and then cutting spending. Like, you got to cut the spending, and they should do it in the same bill. That's the problem. They should cut the spending in the same bill. You know, pay for the tax cuts. Because you don't need to pay for the tax cuts by raising taxes elsewhere. Say, like, and we eliminate the Department of Education from a congressional thing. We eliminate this, we eliminate this, we eliminate this, and then it would be a big, beautiful bill. You go, taxes are lower, and you cut $2 trillion in spending. Sounds good. Sign me up, you know?
Yep.
But I don't know. It's all a big pile of big, beautiful bullshnaps. I censored myself. What do you got for the people till next week, Chuckles?
I have nothing.
I've been forgetting to say to like us and follow us on all the things. On the Spotifys and the YouTubes and the Rumbles, on the Twitters. And I don't know, everywhere else things could be found.
Palantir.
Yeah, we're all found there. That's where we all go, Charlie. That's what heaven is. It's Palantir system where all of our past selves can get together and be analyzed. Kind of like Scientology. Scientology out.